My name is Ram Sareen. For those of you who don't know, my mantra has been change is constant, growth is optional. Literally, we don't have to go and make a change. They called me Mr. Disruptor. My parents hated that word. Do you know why? Because for 7 schools to throw me out before I finished my high school, and everybody sending one letter or one message, your son is a big disruptor. So at that time I knew I'm in the bad place. But today somehow or the other disruption has become a buzzword. In the industry, we've earned that title, and we continue to disrupt even ourselves. You know, we talk about microfactories. Everybody's listening to these words these as microfactories. Yes? Anybody's heard this name, microfactories? Yes, no? Good. For those who are not really waking up, hello? Are you up? Because there's a lot of carbs at the lunchtime, okay? Now, what is the history of the microfactory? Every solution has a problem. First, you have to understand the problem. Back in 2005, I met a very interesting company which was making swimwear. They wanted to maintain the secrecy of their prints. So there comes a business model. He said, I will print on demand a digital print file for you for fabric. Except the cost of digital printing at that time was $200. Now, those of you who know, it doesn't take a yard to make a swimsuit, right? And I am having multiple styles, multiple prints, and so on. So if I have to do 20 styles, the total consumption or the yield was 1 yard. And then they came back, they said, well, to do 20 yards or $200 a yard is a lot of cost. So in 2005, I was the first one to write a solution for them where I incorporated a tight marker, incorporated the print files on each pattern piece, and that print file was ripped for the printer. It was Epson printer at that time. So in 1 yard, he could get 15 to 20 styles. In 2008, there was a company called Simsotex, and sublimation printing had just taken off at that time. Now, this company had invested something like $20 million in sublimation printing equipment, and they were the largest sublimation printers in the United States of America. But what do you do if you have to cut and sew the garments? So we incorporated that technology in there. So it's a step by step. In 2012, we had a company, I still have that company, my son runs it, it's called Staiku, which was a body scanning company. And sometimes it's good to have the young people give you new ideas. We were making 3D systems, which was done for product development, for sample development, and so on. He said, Dad, how can we not replace 2 things? The fit model that you have in the system, let's take the consumer and put their body in. And let's take the consumer to interact, design their own, and visualize on their body how the garment is going to look like. So in conjunction with one of the universities, we put a proof of concept in 2012, the first microfactory or demand manufacturing in the world. The video was out. It went on YouTube, and it just went totally viral. There's a company called Voler, V-O-L-E-R. They are a bicycle apparel company. Now, any of you have seen the bikers. Generally, in the weekend, there are 15, 20 of them together, right? They're all wearing the same styles. They have a biking short and a biking top. But visually, if you look at that group, they all look different. A, their sizes and bodies and shapes are different. B, their graphics and colorways and so on, because that's the way it is. Now think of it from a manufacturer's point of view, what a challenge it is. I have to make so many sizes, and each size I have to make so many colorways. I could be God, I still will fail to figure out what inventory should I keep if I'm going to be an e-commerce company. They found this, they came to us. The birth of micro factories started in California, in San Luis Obispo. And anybody who's taking notes, please go to www.voler.com. For the last 8 years, that company, they don't make a sample, they don't photo shoot a sample, they use technology. They have digital data of all patterns. Remember, rather than selling small, medium, large, or extra small, medium, they create 7 sizes because it's just a grading data, just a digital data, digital pattern files. And then they have the incorporated print files for each pattern piece, but they're both sitting in 2 different computers in the digital format. They make the digital garment, put it on the website. Google Analytics tells me how good a colorway or style is being looked at. So if you're smart enough to get those analytics back, if something is not even being looked at, change that. It's a matter of replacing another digital file by creating a new artwork on that. But once that is done, when you go to their site, you'll find few things very unusual. One is hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, and I mean hundreds, of color combinations and SKUs for the same style. And not one of them is a real garment. Every one of them is a digital garment. So when you're browsing through and so on and say you like something, you could have 3 colorways within that graphics. And then you could have 5 or 7 sizes in women or men, right? So now you pick and choose what size, what colorway, and what garment do you like. But read over there, it says in red, this product is made on demand. Delivery will be 5 to 7 working days after the payment is processed. So you just finance that company by buying and making the payment. Once the payment is there, it kicks in through the ERP system, a manufacturing order, where the system automatically goes to that style file, that size, the related graphics from the graphic file, marry the 2 together, goes through Smart Mark for automatic marker making system, makes a very tight marker, then have every pattern piece, the related image, and then the print file goes to the digital printer. We generally get an applause on that. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. Let me just qualify for an applause. All that is unattended, totally automatic. Go ahead now. I paid $22 an hour in California. I don't have the budget or the money or a sustainable business model to put another person. Our mantra is to do more from less, more from less. We have to do it fast, and we have to do it with least number of people. Therefore, the technology plays a major role. From there onwards, it was really smooth sailing. There's a company that I spoke this morning about, a company called Timex Ferguson in Sri Lanka. They've been our 3D users for dresses since 2005. There are 65 or 60 sewing design operators and so on. This is a digital pattern room with no fabric, no cutting, no sewing, but everybody sitting with the 2 screens. It really is an awesome sight to see it. But the guy says, if I didn't have this technology, I wouldn't be in business today. Because their average order is between 500 to 1,200 garments, and that too in 5 sizes and 3 colorways. So you can imagine the matrix of that as a business model, and you want to deliver in 45 days. So we put digital printers on demand. I needed 968 yards, but my minimum buy was 1,500 yards. So I really don't do my costing. If I really am a smart guy, I'm not going to do my costing on 968 yards that I'm going to use. I bought 1,500 yards. I just got consumption for 968. Yes, the digital printing was expensive, but it's becoming cheaper and cheaper, and there's new technologies out there which are printing directly on cotton now, so there's no processing. And there is a lot of work being done, but these are print-driven companies. So the fabric may be same, but I have hundreds of prints and the print placements. Any of you who understand the print placement, it is an engineered work. You've got a border print to go someplace, you've got a flower to go in the middle, you've got a back and the top or the front and the side and so on. They have to match to all that. Where do you do it? You have all these different fabrics from different prints, and you take the pattern pieces and you try to place them. Well, now think other way around. I just bring the artwork to the pattern pieces on a tight marker, and I send it to the printer. So my material utilization becomes better. Avirate, have you heard of this brand, Avirate? They have some stores here in India also. Avirate was launched. I took a couple of Indian leaders in the industry. Just by chance, they were visiting Sri Lanka, and I was there. So I took them to that store of theirs, and they couldn't believe it. The selling price of those dresses, they said, Ram, we can't even make it for those prices. And the product was engineered because this company used to be a bra company. So they understand bra technology and how to put the non-slave for the sleeveless dress and so on. How to put the tapes, the way to put the tapes. So it's not just the product development, the product engineered at a very low cost. That gives you an added advantage because the technology is playing a major role. In 2015, I met a company in Pakistan. They were our first customers in 2005. And they're about $650 million company. It's a sourcing company called Matrix Sourcing. His wife is a designer. And she put a group together and she said, I want to utilize technology. 9 people, we started a company, a design brand. And I'll tell you, I am extremely impressed with how they launched it. They used multimedia, social media. They had young people sitting on the social media to look at who is following who are the leaders, and what are they wearing, what are their body shapes, and so on. Things that we kind of are disconnected, because at the end of the day, if I have something which you already like, I know the colors that you like, and I show you only your prints when you come on. That technology is available. But how they used it to launch it, April 17th last year they started. Last month they reported a $22 million sales for the 12-month period. And consider that that's only for local market. That is not even selling outside of Pakistan. Because of that, there are several brands there, Khadi, Nishat, Sapphire, Gul Ahmed, and this is a huge market. Now, those of you who've seen Pakistani clothes, they're very print-driven. I gotta say, I have yet to meet a better print designer talent group than Pakistan. Somehow or the other, their color sense and so on is awesome, and their prices are fantastic. Go into a company like Khadi. There are all young people, 62 designers, sitting on a 55-inch screen, and all that merchandising and everything is done on the screen. There is no sample. There are digital printers. There are digital design for patterns. There's digital design for prints and the digital samples, but everything is done for a very short run. We're going to make 340 garments because that store needs 6 and this store needs 4. And what does that do to the consumer? They want to go back in because running out of that style is part of their business model, not to have more inventory. So the consumer now, as I saw it last week, is gone. I see something I like it now, I better buy it now. It's a very different business model. By the way, Zara does the same thing. Okay? So, what do we need to do? What do we need to do in order to do that? We need to have our CAD room engineered. Why? Because I very strongly believe the oxygen room of your business is CAD, patents. You don't have a patent, you don't have nothing to cut, nothing to sew, nothing to make, nothing to ship. Nothing, nothing, nothing. It all starts from there. It's the most neglected area, and we try to fix it way back. But if that is fixed, a lot of things happen. The next thing is processes. Simplify. Everybody calls me disrupting. It's not disruption. Disruption, my definition is taking the status quo, whatever you're doing yesterday, if I simplify it, that's disruption. But there are ways. I'm going to ask one question from this audience. We've heard a term called C-level executives, right? How many CEOs are sitting here? Please raise your hands. All right. How many COOs are sitting here? Okay. How many CFOs? How many CIOs? You've heard a lot of C's, right? Are there any CPOs? Is there any CPO? Every business needs one. That's called Chief Paranoia Officer. If you're not paranoid about your business, you are going to go out of business, guaranteed. The day you think you got it, and you don't need to change anything, that is the start of downhill. You need to centralize data. We've talked about it all morning about data, but we're still writing reports. I have to share one comment that was made by these two large industrialists from Delhi who were in Sri Lanka at one of the hydromining plants, and they walked around and they said, and one guy, as he comes out, he said, "Tu dekhya?" He said, "What?" He said, "Koi register nahi hai kisi ko. Koi guard nahi baitha. Things are moving. There is no checkpoints and sign here and sign this. You're slowing the process down. You're not really working with the information. You're not empowering your people. But you have to centralize data. And the data, which comes from CAD, patent room. Patent maker is not an engineer, but we have an industrial engineer who can plan his cutting and plan his fabric purchase, how much to buy. The patent master cannot do that, the marker maker not. So how do we centralize data and how we utilize the data, which comes from the patents? Those of you understand drawings. I'm a mechanical engineer. We had a language called drawing. We didn't speak English or Japanese or Chinese. We made the engineered drawing, and we could send it to any country, and they'll make the machine for that. A pattern is that drawing. That the grader, the marker maker, the spreader, the cutter, the sewer shouldn't have to ask a question. We have masters. Our job is to make them pattern engineers. So once that is engineered, hundreds of other steps are automatically engineered. And then that data is sitting centralized. So connecting associated departments to that. We go forward, we say, all right, we know that it all starts from the patent room, but if we don't have a computerized patent room, we're going to have to continue to do the same thing. Draw that thing, try to make the same armhole, try to make the same neckline, but hit and miss. And that doesn't work. So you start working with templates called slopers and blocks. Those blocks are then centralized with master grading, because grading doesn't change. So once I have a graded pattern, I create something new, it's already graded. So my 2/3 of work is done. And then analyze those samples virtually. Because when you're looking at sample patterns, you're looking at only one flat pattern here, one flat pattern. Sometimes the guy makes a mistake and he needed two cuffs, so he's got one, or two collars, he's got one, two fronts, he's got one. How do you verify? Your present process is to send that pattern to the sample room, and somebody then try to cut a sample, then sew a sample, then put it on the dummy to find out A, if your pattern is right, B, if that garment fits. God forbid if it doesn't, what do? Go back to the pattern room, correct the pattern, do the whole thing all over again. Do you have the time or the money or the resources available? No. Because what you were doing today versus last year versus the year before, you were amortizing that cost over the number of units sold. Two things are happening. One is the number of styles are becoming more. That means I need to increase my product development department or people because I'm working with the same old method. And two, my cost has to be now amortized with the smaller quantities. So unless I make that change to survive in this business, I will not be able to I'm going to share a video with you that will explain the process. This video is not made by us. This was made by one of our clients for one of their clients, okay? Volume down. So what does it take to make a virtual garment, okay? We body scan the fit model because we need to have the exact replica of the fit model. Then we add animation. How we are asking the fit model to check the fit in the design room, we're adding that to the avatar. Once that is done, that's one side. Now we're still making the patterns. In the pattern, I now tell this pattern what fabric it is. So I'm going to now start making a sample. So I'm now taking the digital pattern and making it into a digital cloth pattern. Because the system doesn't know, I have to tell the system what panel goes where, and because I'm now a digital sample sewer, and what sews to which one. Once that is done, the system takes over and it simulates the sewing, applies the gravity, and I can check how the garment is fitting by adding motion and view it from every angle. But since this person cannot talk to me, I have to have some kind of a feedback. I may have a sample manager, so this data is uploaded to cloud where they can incorporate and see all the details. They can see it in X-ray, they can see it in motion, they can see it in tension. And the tension is not just tension, but I want to see it in weft, in warp, in stretch, the pressure against the body, because this is the only way. Otherwise the fit model is saying, it's cutting in. Well, I want to know that it's cutting in and where. I have the stretch ratio. Once I'm done with it, my fit is done. Now I need to create a look. So I can go to my graphics file, bring my pattern pieces, or combine my pieces, artwork. Again, this is just a Illustrator or Photoshop. And visualize how the garment is going to look like. Rather than making a garment, I now have my internal staff who's approving it. I don't have a tech pack. I verify the position of labels, the content of labels, and once I am comfortable, I now upload that to the cloud and release that style for approval by my buyer, who then, without having a software, goes into this, looks at the whole thing, and makes a comment. Now he says, well, I'll make it 4 inches shorter here. I go to my pattern room, pull the pattern, make the change. Notice I don't have to do placement and sewing again because the system remembers at one time. So if done once that I have a 3D block, I could make hundreds of variations and have a lot more coming out. Okay? We'll hold the questions. Thank you. Thank you. We'll hold the questions because I have a lot of things that I want to talk about. I'm not being a smart ass here, but the truth is there are a lot of people who are driving the industry. The designers really don't have that much design sense. They just want to put their input, okay? Those were the days, and I'm talking my days. I've been 48 years in the garment business, and I still remember first time I had to make my own pant, wear it for 7 days so everybody could criticize. And I was a vice president manufacturing. Every designer had to have the pattern making knowledge. Today, most of the people don't even know how this blouse is going to go in because I didn't even put a zipper or something that I don't have the access to get in. But they created. My 80-year-old granddaughter can design better than that. I have proven that, by the way. She sat down in my office and she designed, and we did it on 3D, and 4 hours later, she was wearing the garment, and she was smart enough. I have the video of that. But I just wanted to prove a point that technology can de-skill and can offer a lot of things. Designers want to put their input. No, I don't like that graphic there. Can you move it to this side? So what am I going to do? I'm going to have to redo the whole sample, right? I can't start the production. No, can you make it 20% smaller? How many times do you hear that? It's ridiculous requests coming in sometimes, those of us who understand. But I am a cut and sew guy. I don't have the design knowledge. So I said, all right, I'll tell you what. I'm going to give you the access. You do your designing. So I created a new application. We just launched it. It's called Designer Edition. That means I'm now taking away jobs from pattern makers. That's what I'm doing. We automated, marker, graded, and now pattern making because I have the templates. And how do we do this? There are 3 modules, and each module is available for $29 a month. So even a little person could sit down and do it at home and have real fun with it. So I'm going to show you how this graphic visualization is. So it all starts with data. It all starts with centralized data and how to utilize the data. All the styles which are approved for that brand are sitting in approved styles. I can categorize by tops, bottoms, whatever. And once that is done, I say, okay, I like this one. So I can just choose that. Make sure the garment was fitting okay because it was an old style that I have. Go and look at all the details, how the garment was constructed because this is in the cloud. And by the way, I'm working on the browser and I don't have a software, okay? But once I like it, now this is a $29 application, which is called Designer Edition. And we pull that. This works with any design, drawing software, whether it's Photoshop, Illustrator, or Krita, or even Paint. So you have the pattern pieces, and they know what they want to do. So now they're bringing it in, colorway, and so on, and say, let me see how the garment is going to look like. They visualize that in 3D, not a sketch. It is to proportion. I want to have some more fun with it. So I'm just going to create another colorway or another style variation. And I create my creativity and make my own product line rather than sketching and drawing and then not having the things to the scale, okay? Once I'm done with it, I can make a storyboard, have a design meeting, have a merchandising meeting, and say, all right, what do you guys think? What do you like? Whatever you like, you send that back to the vendor who's actually going to do the job. Remember, all that thing came from a 2D pattern to a 3D garment. They don't know it. But when it goes back to the vendor, already the 3D pattern is there. 2D pattern is there. All I have to do is apply that. Okay, well, maybe I'll explain that a little better. So this is one aspect of using certain bodies and then creating new look by changing either fabric or colorway or the look, right? T-shirts, athleisure wear is a big category right now. And that category is really, really very good for this kind of thing. But when we go into the fashion business, what happens in the design room? Anybody who has spent some time in the design room where they have the old days, the pattern makers and sample sewers and the fit model in the same area, the designer would walk into the racks and, you know, I like the neckline of this dress. Oh, I like the sleeve length of this. I like the length of this style. And so I'm picking out 4, 5, 6, 7 styles, taking it to my pattern room and say, hey, you know what? This is what I want, right? And next thing you know, the person just has a garment ready. Today, we're doing that all day long in California. So we said, all right, we have those digital racks in the digital space. 3D data, right? So this is another application at another $29 a month. It's called Garment Builder. Am I selling or am I selling? I'm just kidding about this. So I'm just pulling out some component from here onto my dashboard, right? I have the dashboard. I pull it out. And then I open my Designer Edition, all right? In the Designer Edition, this Garment Builder application, I go and I say, all right, I want to see this front, this back. No, I want to see this sleeve. No, I want to see this lace. I want to see this. I'm just doing Frankenstein method by taking parts from here. But remember, they all came from the same fit model's body. They were all blocks. They were all fitted to the same body. Therefore, they all fit together. We just don't know how to do it together. We start to reinvent the wheel in the pattern room again and again. Once I'm done, I can now send to another $29 a month application, the Print Visualizer, which was the first one. And now I see it in real scale, and I've just made myself a digital sew-by sample. I create my colorway, my storyboard, have my design meeting, wear well, sees, live well. I'm just kidding about that. I couldn't resist. All right, so then I send this file digitally in cloud back to my vendor. Now remember, vendor developed the pattern, they developed the 3D garment, and they populated the database, which was being collaborated and shared. They open this, all the related patterns pulled out from all the styles are now merged together, so they don't even have to make patterns. They give new properties because this fabric is different, and then open the 3D, make a 3D garment, assess the fit, see it in X-ray, see it in tension mapping, and if they like the way it is, or the internal sample room manager or merchandiser approve that, then they upload that for the customer to look at. Is this what you wanted? The customer now has a 3D garment. They see all the details. Yes, that's what I want. In Took-A-Mark, we have an automatic marker making system, and we just made a tight marker. And it had the marker and pattern pieces with the print file on top. And I send that out. I cut a garment, sew a garment, send it out. In the meantime, on the other side, I have the brand putting it up there on the website because they already have that 3D file. This morning, a very interesting conversation was going on about Amazon, data company, and so on and so on. I want to share a story with you. A Sri Lankan company. Amazon knows what you bought and kept. What size was it? What color was it? What product it was? And so on. They also know whose product was it. And they've been mining that data for a while. And a few years ago, they decided that they can make better margins rather than getting 10 or 15% from the brand by having their own garment up there. But they wanted to do it a little differently. So they did the investigation and they went after a few categories. Victoria's Secret was one. They wanted to make a $10 bra. Marks and Spencer was another one. They wanted £1.99 panties. They went after quite a few categories. But then they went out and found out who is actually supplying to these brands. Because they don't know garments. They don't know fit. They don't know size. They are data people. They go back, and this is the story being told by the owner of a $1 billion company who's sitting with Amazon, and Amazon is saying, okay, we want 20 styles a week. I do 20 styles a season. 300 to 500 units will be per style. I do my salesman samples, 300. My quantities are 25,000 to 50,000 units. But I want you to sell me cheaper than what you're selling for a 50,000 units order. What would you do generally? Throw the guy out, right? Your ask is too much. They didn't. And the guy was very candid. He said, I understand if you don't want to do it. And these guys had an internal meeting. He said, look, we can see the writing on the wall. That's where the business is going. But let's see how we can make it happen. So the first thing they said, well, we're going to do this way. We're going to do it this way, this way, this way, this way. And that was all digital solutions. Amazon says, okay. I don't know what you're trying to do. I remember training Amazon UK 30 minutes. And they were on cloud collaboration. There is no sample made. There is no approvals. There is no FedEx. But from concept to go to the factory is 3 days. And not just with one of my customers, but with a lot of my customers. That is the power of technology, an organized database, organized collaborative tools, and so on. It is not writing software. There are 2 million code writers sitting in India. It's knowing what to write. First, you have to identify the problems and then find the solution. I'm going to share something else with you.
ICAHT
Volume
is going to help eliminate manpower like crazy and also misunderstandings.
Last year when we were testing with few California companies because that is fast fashion. But they also do some large quantities and they send out. But in the old days, we didn't have tech packs and technical designers. We actually had our own sample room, so we developed the entire garment and then we used to send the garment. It was called sew by sample. Means follow this, make it just like that, and this is the measurement chart. And there are the patterns with it. As we just started closing our sample rooms and reducing our people and so on, we kept increasing our technical designers and slowing the whole product development cycle time. Okay? And that's where the industry went down. Today, 63% of the cycle time is product development and approval. I can't cut it any faster. I can't sew it any faster. I can't ship it any faster. So where is that 160 or 140 or 190 days going? It's mostly in product development and approval. And there are a lot of people resisting to this, but the brands now understand that these are overheads and people are trying to protect their jobs. So this is the remarks from a couple of people here.
I've used ICAHT in many
Louder.
companies that I have worked with or founded.
Louder, please.
I've found as a designer that the
Suniye?
garment and associate
Hello?
are the most
IT?
direct way of
Louder,
communicating with any of my suppliers. It eliminates the need for page upon book of tech packs. I am super excited about ICAHT's new designer edition because it's going to enable me to operate in a whole different way than I've ever done before. It's simpler, it's more to the point. It allows me to communicate directly with people from all over the world in the most direct, most easy way possible, which is visually. No matter how long or detailed your tech pack is, people just don't have the time in their day to read a book on one garment, let alone many books on many garments. I'm really, really excited to see how this transforms the garment industry and our whole development process.
Now share one more.
My hero in the tech world is Elon Musk. That wasn't until I met Ram when he decided to disrupt the garment industry with Tuka Tech, especially.
I should have shown that first. Okay, all jokes aside, Dr. Beda is here. We work together in a lot of projects outside of India. One of the first projects that Dr. Beda and I worked on was the Star Garments in Sri Lanka. There's a company in New York, only 2 years ago, decided to buy Star Garments. And this company is a $1 billion sleepwear company, very print-driven company. They're going to spend a lot of money to buy this factory with 7,500 employees, or rather 7 or 8, 10 factories. So they came for due diligence. In New York, somehow, only in New York is the only place I know, the print designers are called CAD people. I don't know why, but that's how they are called. Charlie Kumar, the chairman of the board, with his team came in, and while looking at Star Garments, they opened the first room, and there were 8 or 10 people sitting there with 2 screens, and they said, "Oh, is that your CAD room?" They said, "No, sir, this is our sample room. It's a digital sample room." "What do you mean?" So they showed that Lady Pulitzer and Express dresses and suits are being done. And so that was very, very interesting for him. So they opened the next door, and there are 75 CAD operators making patterns, grading. Oh, he said, "Oh, this is your CAD room?" He said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Well, why do you need print designers?" He said, No. These are pattern makers, graders, and marker makers. You mean you don't have paper pattern?" Next thing you know is he's taking the notes, whose technology it is, got in touch. I was invited to New York, and their president was asked to take me to show their product development. This is 2016. 2016, at average of $70,000 a year. They had 500 people on 3 floors in New York, in Manhattan, the most expensive real estate, making paper patterns, cutting by scissors, samples, and sewing. And they were making money. So when I come back, Charlie Kumar said, "Ram, what I saw in Sri Lanka, if you could do it for me in New York, I could buy 3 of those companies." 2 years later, this is what this guy is talking about. Volume.
We were doing paper patterns when I first started at Komar. They put me in the pattern room, and they said, "James, today you're going to make patterns." To a degree, I felt like a kindergarten teacher. I was cutting out patterns, I was tracing previous slopers, and I thought there's got to be a better way. Now we have a few of our brands on 3D entirely. We've cut out a number of proto samples. We go straight to market, saving at least a month of development time. You're not just paying the people anymore, you're also paying for the software. So how do we utilize this even further? Where it gets full circle and where it's most disrupting is actually this new design edition. And I think Ram and his team has found a perfect solution in finding a full circle program where we can build a 3D style and then reuse parts of that style to develop further. It's a 3D asset, it's a digital asset. The newness is always required, and you have it almost immediately. A lot of people are going to be frustrated with this process because it's going to be new. We're getting back to the original process of sewing something and sending it off, except we're doing it digitally, and that's what's most exciting.
Okay.
My hero.
I wanted you to hear that again. Okay, I'm just kidding about that. We were just having lunch and we discussed one name. Last week there was a podcast on Sourcing Journal, and I was shared by the information, but I have never seen my email inbox really bust out. I had over 800 emails in the last 3 days. And literally I have to reply to all of them. Last night I was working till 2 o'clock in the morning. The guy who was my co-speaker on the podcast, his name is Dov Sharni. Anybody has heard that name? But if you haven't, he's one of my beta testers, and this is his views.
A lot of people think a t-shirt's real simple, and it really is, but it gets down to the details. What Ram has been doing for me, at least, is he's helped me really formalize my business, formalize my marking and grading systems, help me manipulate my patterns on a 2D system. And what's coming out is this new system where you can actually design visually, play around, add color or patterns. Let's take this shirt, let's make a long sleeve, let's put a cuff. How about we try a V-neck? What about a deep V-neck? Forget V-neck, we're doing mock neck. One of the emphases of the system is that also you could see the image in 3D. So it's not just this flat thing where we add a mock neck or make a crew neck or a V-neck, but we could see it in 3D, we could spin it around, we could see where the garment stretches, and boom, we're gonna get a proper 3D rendering of the garment. We can actually provide those images to the customer if we feel like. From visual to pattern to sample executed, we can have, a 40-minute design cycle.
Now you can applaud. Hey, don't take me that seriously, okay? I just generally joke about a lot, okay? Life is too serious to begin with. At my age, I can't afford to continue to be serious.
A lot of people.
So the point I was making, it doesn't really restrict to one. Doesn't matter what product line it is. We have hundreds and hundreds of users around the world who are actually doing all this. In 2007, Hydra Money got an award from Tesco for eliminating samples. Today, I can honestly say there are more than 500 brands and retailers who do not get samples. Why? 2 reasons for that. One is they trust that what they see is what they're going to get. While many of us in this audience, after getting the sample approved, we have to get a PP sample. And then we have to make a size set to prove that my grading is okay. And then I can get started. In 2016, Gap, Banana Republic, and Old Navy people came into Brandix. Brandix is my largest single customer in the world, with approximately 450 CAD systems and everything we make from cutters to spreaders to whatever. And believe it or not, after spending millions of dollars, they still invite me to their homes and their wives still cook for me, okay? So we have great relationships. We must have added some value to them. Brandix in 2012 decided to copy the fit models, develop the bottoms, and fit them properly before cutting and sewing a sample. Every sample they sent out, 99% of the times, unless it was a design change, the fit was approved. They've been a vendor of the year for Gap for many, many years in a row. And what happened? 2016, new CEO comes in, they decide to come with their technical team, and when they found out how they are using whatever technology, by the way, Brandix had never sent a 3D garment to any of those people because most of those were saying, I want a real garment. And so most of our installations at vendors was to help them reduce the number of iterations at the product development. How many times do we make 2 to 3 proto samples before our internal team approves that okay to go ahead and send this garment out, right? Well, even if you reduce one iteration, you save 1 week, 1 FedEx charges, and so on, the system is paid for. But these people were doing it where 99% of the garments were getting approved first time. So when Gap people saw this, they said, even we don't have either technology or people to be able to do what you're doing. From now onwards, you don't have to send us a sample, fit sample. So my first customer who doesn't even have to now send a sample, let alone eliminating all that. I'm open for questions.
Mr. Sari,
Yes, sir.
your presentation, of course, it was excellent presentation, true to your experience. Experience is the best teacher, It was quite overwhelmed with the Sri Lankan examples, one after the other. So my basic question is, are they really global, these disruptors, or are you in this part of the world, that's why you're trying to influence us out of that a small neighbor country can do, why can't we do?
No, I'm sorry. Because you can relate to them. That is why I'm giving that example. We are in 41 countries. We're now in business for the last 23 years. And just about a month ago, we were having a meeting developing a new website, and my new young team came to me and says, I've gone to your website, old one, and I've gone through all the newsletters, that your mission statements from 2002 and 4 and 6, you haven't changed. No, we've been focused on our mission and our business model. Our aim is not to go out and sell more systems. For those of you who know me, I started this company after a heart attack and a retirement. I was 45 years old. I was bored, living in Italy, and I called a family meeting. I said, if I don't work, I will die sooner. So objective of Tukatech is not to create more sales and more. Till today, we don't have any salespeople. We don't knock on the doors. India is the only place where we advertise in some magazines, but that's the only place, nowhere in the US. If you go in any of the Asian countries, go, everywhere, including India, the middle management is all Sri Lankans. Am I right or wrong? Dr. Beda, you travel a lot. All Sri Lankans. Sri Lanka doesn't have a NIFT. They don't have ATDCs. They don't have Lady Irwin. They don't have colleges. Their attitude is different. They learn from each other. Now, everybody tells me, Ram, can you take me to ABC company? I want to see how they are really doing it. I get this request, doesn't matter where I go in Asia. But where do you think Sri Lankans go to learn? Los Angeles. Do you know there isn't a month when I don't have 2 to 3 companies in LA with their technical people living there, staying there, videotaping? Why? So I give Sri Lanka as a benchmarking for you guys, because you know you have respect for Sri Lankans. At least go neighborhood. They are totally open. They're the most straightforward, simple people you will ever meet in your life. There isn't a poor or a rich person. Every one of them has a smile on their face. Everyone. Have you ever met a Sri Lankan who's not smiling? Everyone. In India, the richest person is just like he's got a constipation on his face. You're driving a goddamn Mercedes and you're just bitching about whatever. No, it's the attitude is different. What can I say? So please don't accuse me for Sri Lanka. I'm not promoting them. I am a fan of their attitude, of their way of life, and sincerity. Okay?
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Serene?
शर्माइए मत मौका नहीं आता मैं ज़्यादा नहीं आता यहाँ पर
I have a question for
जी.
Ram. I'm a fellow panelist. So Ram, this designer tool that you have, is it available now for us to use and subscribe to it?
Yes.
So we just log in?
No. Okay, so carry on with the question.
Okay, you just said no, so that's why I said okay.
No, you asked me, can I log in and start? No, remember that means I'm going to have to now re-show you or re-talk about it. That is working from 3D database.
Okay.
So you have to first commit to start from primary school to high school to college and then get to the PhD level. You can't just get into PhD right away.
Okay.
But our other business plans are to have a library of assets for all different kind of blocks like T-shirts or shirts and dresses and blouses that you can buy for $5 a block, 3D block, and then create your own and then send it out to people who have Tuka systems. Okay?
And
that's not ready right now.
okay, and one more. How I've looked at Dassault PLM kind of systems, which do product development. How different and how, I mean, have you had a chance to, because some of the big companies are using those systems for their tech pack generation or pattern making and everything. So how would you compare with what they are doing versus, because I've been to companies where the implementation is very patchy. They find it very complicated, they find it very difficult to use. So any thoughts on that?
Yeah. Anybody who wants to take a venture and say what is a PLM? Please? Very good. Did everybody know that? I don't want to throw buzzwords, okay? PLM, Product Lifecycle Management. From the concept to the time it goes out. And keep the historical data. So I have machine learning, so I know what goes on where next time I want to do the planning. Correct? I'm a mechanical engineer. And all my life, I have benchmarked only automotive industry. The automotive industry was the first one to use PLM. I taught materials management, production control, inventory control about 40 years ago for an association called APEX, American Production Inventory Control Society. Today there are 6.5 million members and I'm one of the founding members of that association. Till today, my wife knows that I live two lives. One, mechanical engineer, the other one in the garments. Because I do not want to be benchmarking another idiot in the garment industry and then let that person take me along with him down. If I'm going to benchmark, I'm going to benchmark somebody on higher. You look at that industry, how many parallels are there? They're all processes. They all manufacture. But the processes they have is zero tolerance as far as seconds are concerned. We can't say, I'm now reduced from 1.3% to 0.3%. No. Can you show me a seconds Maruti store, or forget about BMW or any other? But there is no seconds. Yaar, iska thoda steering kharab hai, to le lo, seconds mein le lo. But I can show you Hugo Boss second stores. I can show you every brand second stores. Because that's a mindset. When I'm done in my manufacturing, where I have only 2 hours of work in process inventory, and I have 35 sub-assemblies, and I have thousands of parts coming from hundreds of countries, yet I have 2 hours work in process. I turn my inventory 4 times a shift, and I work 3 shifts a day. That's management. Let me just take it further. When I'm done with that production line, I don't have a leftover steering or a tire or a wheel. I don't even have a washer. That's purchase planning, inventory planning. Are we there yet in garment industry? I want you to do an exercise in your own companies. Walk into your stock rooms, in your cutting rooms, and look at all the money which could have been in your pocket, we call leftover fabrics. There are people who are writing cut planning system, roll planning system. My God, do they understand the process? No. There are so many idiotic things are happening in this part of the world that you will never see on the other part because the cost is very high, labor is very high. When we have blind leading the blind, I go into the factories and I say, hey, why are you doing this? Oh, my buyer's QC said I have to do it. Who's the buyer's QC? Also from the same industry. When I travel to a new country, I see the factory once. Then I'll go and see another factory. Third factory, I don't even have to tell them, show me the factory, let me tell you what's wrong with it. I can tell them what's wrong with you right now because they steal people from each other. And they're all bringing culture from each other, wrong or right. So we're not even learning and training our people. In PLM, the PLM is such a big term, but everybody's entering data in between. If I'm entering data in between, I don't have the full picture from the time where whatever step it was to the time where everybody was entering data in the computer system. I have only that much information live. After that, it died. And then somebody was taking the data from there onwards and going in there. So we created PLM system within our 2D CAD system. That's what I meant by centralizing database, where system is a Windows-based application, so everything comes out automatically on Excel file. Did you know Excel is the second largest used software? Can anybody tell me which is the first one? I'm going to go with the riddles that he started. I think that was a good engagement. Can anybody tell me what's the number 1 software in the world? No. I'm married to a lawyer. My wife said, do not ever ask the question you don't know the answer. That's not a software, it's an application. Outlook. Outlook, number 1. Number 2 is Excel. Those of you who really like to explore, do you know you could run the entire business in your Outlook? That's how powerful it is. Those of you who know Excel, it is a really powerful, not just a spreadsheet. You could write formulas and you can create programs with that, with graphic and videos embedded in there that will blow you away. Microsoft last year released a study. Did you know what is the average use, percentage use of Microsoft applications? Anybody take a guess? There are 100 features. What percentage of things which are capable, that software's capability, is being used? Less than 4%. Yet, it is the number 1 selling operating system in the world, right? The point is, how do we utilize a little bit extra in there? So I embedded Excel as part of it, and I created simple solutions for the Master G who doesn't know computers very well. You click that. When you say finish, it automatically generates a report for you. And that report goes automatically to the centralized database that merchandiser can see. The pattern is made. This is the number of pieces. The costing is done. That's what the marker was. So it is the same page. It's called appending to the same file. So it's one style, one file. That's what PLM is about. One product. What happened to that? Where it is. so I can make a decision. That's what collaboration is concerned. In 3D, we're doing the same thing. Take the next step, this is sample making, and then again, it's a cloud collaboration. Doesn't matter who it is, that everybody is informed who did what, when, why. When you look at product development and so on, how many have seen these emails coming from buyers or designers and so on, and this email has 15 people copied? Why? And they have all these pictures attached. Next thing you know is a 60 megabyte file in my server. 12 people have 5 megabytes each. The time that is eating away. And then you have to manage all those emails, who said what was the answer of this one and so on, and the string. And where is that going? That's being used all day, Outlook. In the cloud collaboration, well, one style, and it's very, very, very unforgiving. If you made a comment, it stays with you. So we know who said what, who did what, and when, and so on. So it's not that we're trying to find a person who's culprit, but we're trying to make sure there's a discipline in there. I want to talk to the pattern maker. I'm the designer. I didn't like this. What happens? Today I send it to the merchandiser or sometimes to the owner of the company, who then has to call the merchandiser, who then has to call the sample manager, who then has to go and tell the pattern maker what needs to be done. And guess what? Something gets lost in the translation. This needs to be fixed by what? Talk to me. Doesn't matter where you are. We are in the internet age where we can talk to each other regardless. So those of you who want to see it, we'll be more than happy to show you how our cloud works. Everybody's pictures are there, so it's like a social media. So you actually are communicating, but you know exactly the person is sitting in China, this person is a woman, this person is doing this. So it's a little resume attached to that one. So each person is talking to each other digitally. But in the meantime, you know, when you walk in the morning as a manager, he said, let me see the dashboard. The dashboard shows me how many styles are in the sample room, how many of them have been approved, how many of them have been rejected, and how many are right now done by who, and so on and so on. What am I doing? I'm just giving the information to the senior management who knows how to fix this. So do I need to work Saturdays, or do I just give them a 4-day holiday? Okay. The idea is I can make the best possible decision. Just give me the right information. Or de-skill the decision making. Let the information make the decision by itself. That's machine learning. Okay? That answer you? Long, short answer. He told me to extend the time, okay?
Yeah, I told him.
I asked him.
I told him you can take as much time.
Well, thank you, Mr. Serene, for a very insightful presentation.
Thank you.
And you were very right when you said that we all have to learn from the automobile industry, and we have to learn best practices from them because they're definitely at the pinnacle of manufacturing. And also all the good stuff you told us about on-demand manufacturing, that is definitely a revolution that's on its way, and we all need to take note of that. I mean, there's already companies in Los Angeles, micro factories, like you said, that are manufacturing clothing, and what they do is they design using your technology. They get the order, so they get the money in first, and then they manufacture, and there's no inventory, which is actually amazing. So thank you for that insightful presentation.
I got to tell you, you're a young guy, so hey, all young people who are running the companies, businesses. About 5 years ago, a young guy walks into my office. He said, Mr. Serene, I've heard you're a technology company. I'm starting an e-commerce business. And I got $200,000 already raised from friends and family. We're going to the second round, and da-da-da-da-da. We want you to come on our board as an advisor. Okay. Tell me more about you. Oh, I'm a USC graduate. Anybody in the fashion business? No, sir. Do you know anything about the fashion business? No, sir. And the next week, somebody's coming from Stanford, and somebody's coming from UCLA, and somebody's coming from Yale. And I gracefully bowed out and started laughing. I said, this kid is going to blow his parents' money, his family, friends' money, and whoever investors, we remember the dot-com era, the bust of the dot-com. Well, guess what? 5 years later, they're laughing at me. Because they're running 50, 20, 10, 25, $100 million companies. Do you know why? Because they didn't have this baggage, these preconceived notions that this is how government business is done. They just looked at what needs to be done, what technology is available, and how can I get that done. Go to my website, you'll read a lot of case studies. Somebody who's history major with a master's degree, running a $50 million company today, started from a $200 a month rental of my ICAHT. Companies called Groceries Apparel. There are so many of them. But this is where the thing is. I am totally surprised when I'm working now in the industry. In Pakistan, my customers who are actually signing the orders, the youngest one is 22-year-old and the oldest one is 34-year-old. They're all running family businesses, but they're all US graduate, UK graduate. They're all engineers and business associates and so on. And they understand one thing. Daddy, you work 30 years. If you want me to spend 30 years, then we're going to do it my way. And that's the difference in the garment industry. Thank you.